Welcome back to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio.
We both spent a tremendous amount of time researching the things that we're interested in, and she writes a blog on this, The Curious Fortean, I believe, and she'll correct me in a second. That isn't it. But thought it would be great to have her on the show to bring some more light to these little munchkins running around in the shadows that nobody seems to be aware of, that it seemed to have been here all along. And so without further ado, let me bring on this week's guest, Robyn. Welcome to the show, Robyn.
Hello there, Duke. Thanks for having me on your show.
You're very welcome. Glad to have you here. There's not like a whole ton of people out there that want to stand up and say anything about the little people, partially because they don't know anything about it. And so it's wonderful to have somebody out there actually paying attention to this and doing some documentation and research on it. You know, if it wasn't for a couple other crazy guys, the Brothers of Grimm, that were running around over in Europe documenting the old legends and stuff that they had over there, most of those stories would have all been lost to us by this point. We wouldn't know anything about it. So, you know, if for no other reason than to just preserve the cultural folklore, thank you very much for what you're doing. But this is one step beyond, because you're talking about critters that seem to be real, and people see them still to this day. And they're, you know, like not people that have taken an overdose of acid or just been dropped out of the cargo chute of a UFO and sprayed with rum, but like normal, sober people that have no idea what they're seeing and what they're experiencing. And so really, really glad to have you with to sort of sort this out a little bit. Now, from what you were telling me, it sounds like you've come across sort of the same thing that we have here on the Bigfoot end of things, in that there is more than one variety of little person living here in North America. Can you give us a little bit more info?
I got an email through the Curious 14 blog,
okay,
asking me if I had heard of the little people in the Arctic. I had heard a little bit about them, but I didn't know anything else. So then when I began to research it for the blog, one lead led to another, and I began thinking, there's something to this.
Yeah. I don't know if you follow the Dogman thing very much, but that's exactly what happened to Linda Godfrey. She was going to go into a straight-up journalism career, got onto this weird story about the Beast of Bray Road, and it just never ended. As soon as, you know, people heard the first story, they were sending her more stories and contacting her and telling her what happened to them, and it you know, and it was like a completely unintended career that she just accidentally jumped into.
That's exactly how this has happened. Exactly. And I enjoy this very, very much, because I get to learn about my brother and sister's cultures in Canada and America, as well as researching them. Now, in the cryptid world, we call these little people proto-pygmies.
Sleet, rain, back to sunshine. I'm telling you. So I walked down here, and I'm like, walking around this gravel bar right here, you know, checking things out. When I come over here, I see something dug up, and I thought, well, maybe some deer did that. I wanted to show you guys this. You can see where I was standing around right here, looking around here. I'm going to kneel down here. Doesn't that look like a little footprint? Oh my God. Look how small it is. Yeah, my signal out here is kind of crappy, guys. I can't. I'll blow away. Blow in the river. Look at that. But I don't know what kind of animal has feet like ours. And you can see the water's receding down. I was actually following this black sand line here. That'd be a good place right there to test for gold. As you can see, there's some pyrite right there. That shiny stuff, that's pyrite. But looks like it had little hands. Fingers was in there digging around. But there's no tracks coming down this way to the river edge. It's only coming up from here. What's the river otter? I don't know. There's a couple old deer tracks right there. They're old though. A couple days. And yes, before anybody posts on here, Ohio does have river otters. It's in our guidebook, and they have stocked them in this particular river too, Coasting River. But I didn't know they had a foot like ours, and a footprint like that. See how the toes come around just like a person, a human foot. Yeah, I'll have to show this one to Robyn Moonshadow. She knows a little bit more than me she knows more about the little people than I do. I've seen midgets before, or dwarf people.
And yeah, I hear all sorts of interesting names for them, depending on what part of the continent you're on. And we can, for the purposes of this conversation, we will not be discussing devil monkeys. They do not fall into the classification of little people. And the mini squatch that they have up in Alaska and they call apple snitches over in Pennsylvania, I'm guessing probably are one of the varieties of little people. They look like humans, but they're furry and like 3 feet tall.
Oh, they are, and they're very mischievous.
Yeah, and that always seems to go along with the legends on them. Can you tell us a little bit more about those guys coming right out of the gate here?
Okay, the hairy little people are completely hairy, even their face is covered. And they go to 3 or 4 feet tall. There are an exception that some of them can be 5, but that's very rare, or somebody can't tell their height.
Or it's a young squatch and they misjudged what it was.
The other thing is that it could be a baby squatch, but I doubt a Bigfoot mama would let her baby get very far without her being around somewhere to watch it. Sorry.
Yeah, again, if you're talking about 5, then 5 foot, they're not toddler stage anymore. They're, adolescents, so they could get a little bit further from mama, and they would definitely be dumb enough to let a human see them because they're just not that swift yet. So that could be what some of these things are. But again, they're built differently. The ones you're talking about are built straight up just like humans are, except they're covered with fur even on their face. And even at a younger age, Sasquatch is built a little bit different than a human, as they don't seem like they have much of a neck because they've got the short neck and the hunched posture. Their arms seem like they're overlong, et cetera, et cetera. So even if you're looking at something that's like 4 or 5 feet tall, if you really know your stuff, you could tell, if it was a squatchlet or if you were actually looking at an apple snitch.
Yeah, and a Bigfoot is a lot more broad across the shoulders.
Yeah, even at a younger age, there's, some of the younger ones, and in some parts of the country, they can be fairly skinny, so that doesn't always hold true. But in general, they've got wide shoulders, and it just gets more and more pronounced as they get bigger. So that's another way. If it's really thin, super thin build, it may not be a squatchlet. You might be looking at one of the little apple snitches.
Right. And a lot of these hairy little ones, I get reports that they're not very nice. They are quite mischievous. Now, the Ojibwe call their little hairy person a Mimi-Wessie. And they enjoy playing drums and crafting things like baskets and arrows. And they swim. They swim quite well. Now, they might be the little apple snitchers, because it sounds like something that they would do.
Mm-hmm.
Not harmless, just apple snitchers. And these
are there any sightings or reports of apple snitches using tools, like having bow and arrow or wearing shoes or anything like that gives any sort of an indication that they actually use any kind of even primitive technology?
Well, we know they don't wear clothes.
Right.
They've never been seen with any clothes. But they may use tools at home, maybe rocks and such. Now, we know some smaller apes do that with rocks.
Right. But at this point, what I'm saying is from eyewitness accounts, we don't have any first-hand eyewitness accounts of them using anything more advanced than a rock or something, Stone Age stuff.
Exactly. They use very primitive tools. But these little hairy guys haven't been seen doing that.
Mm-hmm. Whereas some of these other little people, like the witness that I had on Goblins of the Wild West, 3-4 generations of encounters with these little guys around the area where she lived and with her relatives and her, they still to this day are dressing like Native Americans. They got the buckskins and they've got their hairs braided, the whole thing. They've got that same tech level that the local natives had at the time the white man showed up, apparently, which seems like a gigantic leap away from what the apple snitch mini squatch type guys have.
Yeah, that would be the little people of Pryor Mountain.
Right, yeah, or, the Puckwudgies, the Nirumbee.
Oh, yeah, Puckwudgies aren't good at all.
Well, that's sort of the same reputation. They got out here, they've got a really, really bad reputation, and in general, most of the natives I've talked to that are willing to say anything about it will say it's kind of along the same lines as like Dogman or, evil, malevolent spirits or something like that. If you talk about it, especially if you say its proper name, it invokes its attention, and they'll be drawn to you, so they don't want to talk about these things without doing it obliquely or using a different name or something like that for it, because they think there's a supernatural connotation to them. And, that seems to have, just in the natives, the Shoshone and the Crow and the ones around here are way more afraid of the little people than they are of Bigfoot. If you see Bigfoot tracks, maybe you should leave the area. If you see little person tracks, run the opposite direction, sort of head to it, And you're going like, what's the deal here? You're seeing a 19-inch track, you're not that disturbed. You see one 3 inches long, you drop a load in your pants, and you're running for the hills, There's something behind this. There's a reason that they're afraid of these guys. And, when you start really getting in depth about some of the legends they've got about them, it's like, my God, no wonder they're scared of them. They have a freakishly fast speed, almost cartoonish. They have ridiculously, unproportional strength, supernatural level strength for a critter that's, 18 inches, 2 feet, 2.5 feet tall, can throw the head of a dead elk over its shoulder and drag the corpse away. Well, my God, nothing that size should be able to be that strong. So again, that points towards supernatural. And then some of the other legends and stuff that they've got about them, and not to say that they're always negative and that you can't have positive interactions with them. Some people did. But in general, they don't trust or like humans. And they eat meat. They have like shark-like teeth, and they use poison weapons. So all of these are many good reasons to stay away from them.
Exactly. And a few of the things that you just mentioned, it's something that they all have in common. Every one of them. Mm-hmm. They are very strong, and they are like super fast. Yeah,
that's really disturbing. I mean, the one person that they were talking about their encounter, they thought it was like a cat running through the low grass across the yard at ridiculous speed. Just, like it was going so fast it was just a blur, and then it just froze in place, and it was looking at him, and it was a Puckwudgie.
And she's lucky she didn't get hurt. Puckwudgies.
Yeah. This is an old gentleman that was living out in the Bighorn Mountains, and I ended up making friends with that particular one by bribing it with a can of peaches. which it immediately gobbled the entire can full and smiled and then left again.
He loves sweets.
Yeah, apparently that made friends with him because he brought back another pal apparently like the next year or something and tried to get more peaches from him. And his buddy couldn't wait for him to open up the second can and grabbed a can of something else that was open there that wasn't very edible and tried to gobble that down, and it didn't kind of work out very well. So they left, and anyway, anybody who wants to hear that story can go back to Goblins of the Wild West, episode 13. Check that out. But so here now is another example. We've got the little mini squawks, the little apple snitches. There's reports of them all the way from Pennsylvania to Alaska. And again, the Puckwudgies, there seem to be, whether they're being called a different name by each individual tribe, that seems to be a distinct another variety of these little guys that are kind of spread all over the place on the continent.
Yes, there are. The second type, besides the hairy little people, are right. The troll-like ones. And, of course, that's the ones that are like the Puckwudgies. They're often described no taller than 3 feet tall, large eyes, big nose, darkish color to medium color, and they have a pot belly. I got a story about a woman in New England with her dog, and they were walking in the woods, and her dog ran ahead. And she heard it yip, and of course she hurried to see what had happened. And here's her dog laying on the ground. Unfortunately, it was deceased. And there was a Puckwudgie, and she has no doubt that it was a Puckwudgie, was standing over the dog. Now, when it saw her, and she took off the other way. Now, her husband had to retrieve the dog. She won't go for a walk again. Not in that area where she was in New England. It scared her.
Good Lord. How long ago did this happen?
This was in 2010, I believe.
So real recent. And so how did this thing kill the dog? What ended up killing it?
Well, they believe that it hit the dog in the head.
Whacked it with something?
Yeah, she didn't say if it had a weapon or not.
Well, with their super strength, all they'd have to do is just smack it once.
Probably pop the dog on the head.
Yeah.
Now, there is a similar story with the woman and her dog, and it had just knocked the dog out. And she screamed, and it just took off running.
Wow.
And that particular one, it didn't kill the dog. But then again, this could be the same story told two different ways because they're so similar.
Right.
What I got was the one with the deceased dog. Now, with the Puckwudgies, they've been blamed for pushing people off cliffs, and they do use poison arrows.
Yeah.
They hate people, just hate us, and they will go out of their way to hurt or kill us.
And again, thus explaining why the local natives have such the supernatural dread of these little monsters, because they're not neutral like Bigfoot is. They don't like us. They will try and hurt us. You know.
They say it goes back long, long time ago to Moss Hop. Now, the little people used to help us. The Puckwudgies at one time helped the people. And they got jealous of us. And they started causing a lot of trouble for the locals. And they went to Moss Hop, who was a giant, for help and pleaded to him and his wife. And Moss Hop went out to take care of it. And he, as the story goes, he picked them up and he threw them all over the world. And he, just got rid of them. But a few of them came back, and that caused more trouble. Now, Moss Hop, he had gone off somewhere. And they pleaded to his wife, who was a little person, but not a Puckwudgie. I know they pleaded to her for help. So she sent out her 2 sons. Now, in some stories, it's just 1 son. And in other stories, it's 2 sons. So those 2 sons went out to finish off the Puckwudgies. And they had tricked them and killed both sons, the Puckwudgies did. Now, this started the war between the Puckwudgies. Now, one story says that, again, the Puckwudgies tricked Moss Hop and got him in the water and killed the giant with poison arrows. And another story says that Moss Hop was so devastated by the loss of his sons that he just went off and didn't come back.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't say what happened to the wife. I would imagine maybe she did the same thing. Just devastated by her son's loss that she went away.
Yeah. Wow. So, yeah, that's pretty bad when you're having a war with the Puckwudgies, man. I would want to be in that situation. And that has parallels to some of the stories I heard about the native tribes in Canada and the upper East Coast over there having virtual wars with the Wendigo back in the olden days. And last episode we were talking about the Bigfoot contagion theory here and in Europe. And sort of occurred to me that, that sort of all came to a screeching halt when white man showed up and spread their unfortunate smallpox and other diseases all over the continent. Maybe we actually sort of did one thing right and accidentally killed off most of the Wendigo with our diseases when we got here. It made things a little bit better that way.
That could be possible. We don't have.
Well, considering, they're kind of indiscriminate, and if you fall down dead, they're liable to eat you. And if you got some kind of disease, then they're going to have it. And never numerous. It wouldn't have to be very many of them to have that happen to them, and they start getting thinned out pretty drastically.
Well, some of these little people, not that we have any of these type in Canada or America, are said to be little cannibals.
Now, I've heard that before, too, and where are these legends originating at? Because I know that the Puckwudgies supposedly will eat people if given the chance. And I don't think they'll, it's been said that they'll go out of their way and hunt you down and eat you, but, they will eat people. So, what have you heard?
It comes from Indonesia.
Okay.
Where the Hobbit or...
Homo floresiensis. Yeah.
That little guy, Homo florensis, was found. And they called him the Ibu Gogo. And it was said that they were stealing children and eating them. Got them trapped in a cave and either burned them or stabbed them to death or whatnot, but it is said that they wiped them out.
That's wild. There's still islands near there where there's people saying that those things are still alive and they still occasionally run into little people. And there's, I can't think of where it was, Malaysia, I want to say, but that might be wrong. There's some local guys that had dirt bikes and they were riding down this trail in the jungle. And one of these little guys came running out of the jungle and ran right in front of them for 75 or 100 feet and then cut off the trail and went back into the woods again. Yeah, so it's okay, well, there's one on camera. What do you guys want? How much evidence you want? We got skeletal evidence that there was these little 3-foot tall people. They got one on camera recently. Sure looks real. They weren't out there trying to do a hoax or anything. They all had cameras on because they were part of a bump motorcycle race and they were filming it. So. You got to wonder, in as much as we got a lot of people that believe in Bigfoot now, and there's not that many that believe in the little people, but we got way better evidence skeletal-wise for the little people than we do for Bigfoot.
We do, and then we have the tracks of the little people that are out in the middle of nowhere, where you know a little kid is going to be out running around.
Exactly, and that's where, I found mine, and I was at the ghost town of Coloma. I had gone down an abandoned ramp along that was actually built right onto a cliffside, where apparently they could get down to a lower level in the mine or something without having to go through it. And down at the bottom of it, there was a whole bunch of old slag heaps that now had big trees growing up out of them. And I was standing there and kind of lit up a cigarette, and I was looking around, and it was just like eerily quiet. And each one of these was a mound about 8 or 10 feet high, and maybe 20 feet long, and then there'd be gaps in between and other mounds and whatnot that all these trees had grown up on. And I was just sitting there thinking to myself, God, this would be a great spot for an ambush. And I look down, and there's this little spot of open dirt right in front of where I'm standing, and going across it are what looked like 3 toddler tracks wearing moccasins. And the hair on the back of my neck stood up, and I went, I'm going to leave now. I'm going right back where I came from. See you guys. And I actually said that out loud. And I turned around and got the heck out of there as fast as I could. But that scared the crap out of me. I had heard all these stories and stuff and even been told by the locals that they thought there was little people in this area and just kind of brushed it off. And then you're out there by yourself in this area the locals won't even go to. And there's these toddler moccasin tracks. There's no way there's a woman there with a toddler in the middle of nowhere where I was at that left these tracks there. There's just no way.
You said you were in a mine?
No, there's an abandoned ghost town on top of a collapsed mine on top of a mountain that's shunned by all the locals that are terrified of it, not only because it's haunted, but because the little people live there. And so one of my friends had found a mountain giant track there year previous, so we were up there investigating that for 4 days. And I had actually walked down the one side of the mountain is virtually a cliff, facing where the mine and the abandoned ghost town on top of it are. And they had made a ramp down it when they had the mine active about 100 years previously. It was also overgrown, and you couldn't drive anything down it. You would have to walk down it, which I did, and carefully. And when I got down to the bottom of that was where all these slag heaps were at the base of this cliff, several hundred feet further down. So, what's the chance there's a woman with a toddler down there?
Exactly.
None.
Nobody's going to go there.
The locals won't even go there. They'll ride their ATVs around in there during the day because there's a trail system that goes through it. But within half an hour of dark, they're gone. And every night we were there, we had some of them that were going through there shortly before dark, giving us the looks like, rest in peace, you poor, miserable, crazy bastards, sort of thing. And, they noticed that the car's license plate said Squatch 1 on it. So I think they figured out what we were up there for and probably figured that, we weren't too worried. But, it was creepy. We had ghost phenomenon and everything while we were up there, so definitely a spooky place. Not sure you'd want to go back to that one again.
There are many stories that say these little people are drawn to areas like that.
Mm-hmm.
Where paranormal things happen, but it makes sense. No people go there.
Yeah.
So.
And the other thing is that this area had always been like that. There's a really odd rock formation right next to it on top of this mountain, and that's where the local native tribe had sky burials previous to the miners coming into the area going, oh, look, there's gold right here next to the Indian burial ground. We'll just build a town there because we don't care about karma. And then the bunch of weird things happened in the town apparently, and at some point the local rumor is that the railroads all having been built and the Chinese laborers having no work that wanted to stay locally all went to work in the mines. The mine was getting to the point where it was almost played out, and they only paid the employees about every 2 weeks, so they waited until it was almost the end of the pay period and just collapsed the mine on all of them instead of paying them. So if you put all of these things together, it's definitely a scary, scary place, and that's why the local won't go there.
You could have saw some Tommyknocker tracks.
Well, yeah, and that's another thing. There's literally thousands of abandoned mines in this part of the state where these things could take up residence without even having to lift a finger to do any digging.
There was a story, and I can't remember the year off the top of my head, but the Cornish mine workers believed in the Tommyknockers so much that they petitioned their bosses to let the Tommyknockers go, to let them free where they didn't have to work for them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And the Cornish people won.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of the legends about the little people connected to mining over there in Europe that go back hundreds, if not thousands of years, including things about, like, the Petch and kobolds in Germany especially. Like, they would hear the sound of little hammers lapping and breaking the rock, and they knew for a fact there was nowhere anywhere around them that there was anybody beating a hammer on a rock. And sometimes it seemed to be coming from behind the rock wall, like there was somebody that had a tunnel further in that they didn't even know about that was still digging that tunnel, and they could hear it echoing through the rock. And it would scare the hell out of them. Usually when there was like that sort of thing was going on, they would just abandon the mine. They couldn't even get them to go in and work it anymore.
Yeah, the Cornish workers would hear that knocking, and then run out of the mine because they knew that there was going to be a cave-in.
Yeah.
They would thank the little Tommyknockers by bringing them cakes.
Now that's cool that the Tommyknockers were actually giving them warnings like, hey, it's unstable, the ground's going to cave in, get out of here. In Germany, it was more like a warning, like you're digging into our gold vein, we're going to kill all of you, quit mining here, is the way they took it.
Yeah, I have the cob in my list of little people that I'm going to look into afterwards, and fortunately, my husband's family is part German, and his family
definitely helps to dig up all the old legends from over there, and man, Germany's got plenty of them.
Yeah, and I'm going to be speaking with her later this year, and hopefully she can give me some good stuff.
Right on.
When she was a teenager.
Back to North America, one of the other types that just astounds me every time I hear this reported, and I'm wondering how much of this you run across, is little guys that straight up look like gnomes, like the little garden gnomes. They've got the little colored clothes, and they've got the little pointy hats, and they got the beards and the whole deal. And do you hear about any of that?
Yeah, I do. I do, and they've got the pointy hats, and they've got the beards, and they're the dwarf type.
Mm-hmm.
I classify as dwarf types. I guess I should say gnomes to be politically correct. Yeah, but they do. They have the little pointed hats that come in red and green, and sometimes people describe them as a black color, the hat. And they tend to wear little overalls. And
that's just so bizarre. I mean, I can see why people don't report this. You see a garden gnome walking along, you're like, I'm not telling anybody about this.
You rub your eyes and wonder, did I eat or drink something by accident? Yeah.
Yeah. Which hippie gave me a brownie? There's something weird going on here.
Yeah. Now, that is those type. Those females are seen more often in this particular type, the little gnome type. Not little tiny couple of inches, but these guys are like a foot tall.
Right.
And they are very much like, it's described as look like a live garden gnome with the beards. Now, the women wear dresses, and they wear the pointed hats, too. And
now, what sort of a reputation do they have? What sort of stories are connected to the little gnome-type guys?
Oh, they're not seen here in Canada. It's mostly in America.
Okay.
But they are benign, and it's very much like you hear about gnomes in books and in fairy tales, that they help the animals out, and they're very attached to nature. And
right.
They don't really bother with us at all.
That's the way it was in European legend. They were always just like nature spirits that were shepherds of the forest, and the other little animals that would look after them, sort of thing. And as long as you, didn't bother them, they'd leave you alone, sort of thing.
Yeah, like they don't hate us, but they would just prefer that, we didn't see them.
We leave them alone, yeah. And, it makes sense. If they're forest spirits and they're guardians of the forest or something, you know, human intrusion and interference is not a good thing from their viewpoint. You know, unless you're out there like doing things that are good for the forest, they might like that. But otherwise, it's probably like, oh, here comes another one of those stupid knuckle-dragging humans. Let's see how much garbage they throw on everything. Oh, look, he's cutting down a tree. Oh, wonderful.
The other thing I heard about them is it was good luck to see one.
Yeah.
If you leave them alone, they may bring you good luck.
Nice.
I don't know why anybody would want to hurt a little person. I don't think it's wise.
Right.
Like, you're just asking for trouble if you deliberately go out and hurt one, because they will bring you such terrible luck you could not imagine.
Yeah, well, considering...
benign will, you know, cause you havoc.
Yeah, some of the things that are attributed to them in legend and stuff, if they have even half those powers, you don't want to make them angry. They can do all kinds of terrible things to make your life miserable.
Oh, my, yeah. Yeah, like in my research and in my investigations, like, I won't do anything to hurt them. Like, I would like to talk to them if I could. The one I saw when I was 8, he didn't seem particularly fond of people at all.
Now, was this one of the gnome-type guys that you saw? This is your encounter.
Yes, when I was 8. No, he was like a troll guy.
So, like more like a Puckwudgie? What color was his skin?
It was a greenish color, like a greenish brown.
Okay.
Now, he was about foot and a half high. Now, I'll tell you, when I was about 8, and my aunt and uncle were living in a house. Now, it didn't have running water because it was an old house. And we had to use a pail to use the bathroom, and it had a curtain. So I went upstairs to use the bathroom, and I saw this movement from just beyond the curtain, because the curtain was open just a little bit, and I thought perhaps it was a cat. And when I looked, I saw it. And then I looked again, and it was just standing near a pile of clothes. And it would glare. It would just glare at you. And now, he had a hairy chest and hairy arms, and he didn't have very much hair on top of his head. It was mostly wispy. No, I didn't see his feet. But, yeah, he had very dark eyes and very wide and bushy eyebrows. Now, I'd seen him 2 other times besides that. My cousin and I were in the attic. Now, we had climbed up through the garage because there was a hole in the top of the garage, and my cousin collected Coke bottles and Pepsi bottles, so she had them all lined up there. Mm-hmm. Now, us kids weren't supposed to go up there because we might fall through, but we did anyway. And, yeah. and we saw him just in the corner, and when he saw us see him, he just popped back into the hole. Now, my cousins had seen him quite a few times, and they believed that he lived in the walls. Now, the 3rd time we had seen him, we were outside petting the dog or playing with the dog or something, and we saw him and peeking around at the corner of the house at us. And again, when he saw us see him, he took off, and he was gone in just a shot. Now, that particular time, another cousin had come, so it was 3 of my cousins that saw him that time.
Wow.
Oh, it's
this wasn't just you going, oh, I'm imagining little people again. You got other witnesses right there going, what the hell is that?
Yeah, like 2 of my cousins, a brother and a sister, saw him quite frequently. And he would come in the middle of the night when they were sleeping and steal, like Pepsi or drinks or chips or whatever they had just laid on the floor. Because when they'd get up in the morning, their stuff would be gone. Their treats would be gone. And they just kind of put 2 together and figured he was stealing it. The 3rd cousin that saw him, it scared him. He went screaming to his mom. And, of course, nobody believed us. My aunt kind of did. But my mother, she's like, no, there's no such thing. And I'm like, Mom.
How many times I got to see this thing before you'll admit it's real?
Yeah, I was annoyed she didn't believe me.
Yeah, and when you've seen something that you're sure is real, and you get that from somebody else, it's like, Well, you weren't there.
Yeah. Yeah, I just remember I was annoyed that she didn't believe me.
Yeah, I can see that reaction. That's very common for people that are involved in Bigfoot, too, believe me.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to tell somebody about my encounter. Hey, you didn't see that. It was a bear. Okay.
But that's the other thing they do with Bigfoot up here. If you call the game warden and tell them what you saw, they have no pictures of Bigfoot. They try to convince you what you saw was a bear.
Yeah.
And they show you pictures, this is this and that's that, and no, this is what you saw. Even if you say, no, it didn't look like that, they say, yes, this is a bear.
and quit saying it's a Bigfoot, because we don't want to send the men in black to correct you, because you continue to say it's a Bigfoot.
Or the people with the white coats, yeah.
Yeah, or the people with the white coats. Well, yeah, they can send them out for just about anything in Canada, from what I understand these days. So let's not even get on that subject. So at this point, we're talking about, we got 3 different kinds here. We got the gnomes that are mostly down here in the U.S., and then we've got the little Puckwudgies, and we've got the mini squatches. Now, where would you place, like, the Mexican Duende into this whole list?
That's the little people that look like us?
Kind of. They're more like goblin-looking, really, is the way they draw pictures of them.
I didn't include them in this here.
Okay, so you haven't done too much digging on them yet. Well, is that like just this basically 3 predominant types in North America then, or is there another one that we haven't talked about yet?
No, there is another type, but I do have 2 stories of those Mexican little people that you're talking about.
Okay. Well, cool. Let's hear them.
Duende? Yeah, that's the name that I have.
Right.
The first story involves a family that lived in a house, and the girl would get up in the middle of the night and she'd see these little people, and they would be getting into the food that was left out, and she said they looked like little homeless people, dressed in rags, and they were dirty. Mm-hmm. And as soon as they saw her come into the kitchen, they would just scatter.
How big were they? Did she give a description of how tall they were?
Well, the description was gnome-like, because some of them had beards.
So you're kind of guessing like garden gnome size again.
Yeah, it's about a foot, yeah. And
okay.
Some of them had beards, but they weren't very clean, and their hair was messed up and had dreads, so it's like they didn't look after themselves very well.
Right. So they probably didn't have the natty clothing, or the bright colors, and the pointed hats.
No. No, she thought they might be poor.
Okay.
Yep. And the other story that I have now, and it is a secondhand story, and secondhand story is something that comes to me from somebody else who they got from somebody else.
Right.
These people have a farm, and a couple nights a week, these little people come in and they're stealing chickens and small livestock, small dogs. Cats have gone missing, and of course they believe they're eating them, and they're becoming a real problem.
Wow.
People don't know what to do about them.
Yeah, well, what do you do in a situation like that? Our pets keep getting eaten by little people. Yeah. You're not going to call Ghostbusters.
No. They're too fast for the people to shoot them.
Yeah. Yeah, they're probably too smart to fall for any stupid traps we could set for them either. Exactly.
Now, the other type that we have here are the little people that look like little people. They may look Native American, or they may look Caucasian. Now, there's the ones that are called the Pasa in Algonquin. I believe that's Miami. Now, they play harmless pranks, and as long as you don't provoke them.
How big are these guys?
I don't have a size on them.
Okay.
But I am going to think they're about 2 feet tall.
Okay. I don't know if you heard it, but I did an interview with another Bigfoot researcher from the Navajo Nation, Randy K. Manyazi, and one of these little people actually showed up on his bed and grabbed his thumb and pulled himself up out of the bed by holding onto his thumb, which is what woke him up. And he couldn't believe his eyes what he was looking at. And then when the little guy realized he was awake, he jumped back down, ran under the bed, and through a hole in the wall that had been recently made. And the thing that blew him away about it is that there's no lore about little people that size in the Navajo legends. There just isn't. And he actually was talking to me about it, wondering if it was a Puckwudgie, and I said, no, it doesn't fit the description. And then he talked to some other natives from another tribe that he's distantly related to up in Pac West, and they said, yeah, we've got those little guys up here around. They used to be around the Mount St. Helens area, but since the eruption, we haven't seen any of them. And the interesting thing is that this was like a few years after the St. Helens eruption, they started seeing these little guys around the Navajo lands.
So they just scattered when the mountain erupted.
Yeah, like maybe they moved and went somewhere else where there's not a volcano. And so now the local natives are like, what the hell are these things? Let's talk to the other tribes and see if they had to deal with them. We don't know what these things are. What are these things, guys? Where'd they come from? You know?
Yeah, I'd be wondering what he wanted.
Yeah, exactly. And it seemed like that was pretty much the only time he saw the little guy. I don't know if the little guy went somewhere else or, if he just decided to be real careful about not letting his presence be known after that. But that was pretty much it. He has nonstop Bigfoot problems around where he lives. So, for him to see something else out of the ordinary, not that much of a shock like it would be to somebody that never sees anything out of the ordinary. But again, it was like this little guy's like 6 inches tall and looks just like a human. And he's like, what the hell is this?
Little guy. A real little guy, little.
Yeah. And he said, other than its size, it looked like a human, basically. So give us some more info here on distribution and numbers and sightings and that sort of thing. That's what we really would love to hear.
We have the, I hope to pronounce this one right, the Nirumbee, and that's Shoshone and Arapaho, and they're in western United States. Now, these guys, they are about 3 feet tall. They are skilled hunters, but they're not very smart. They're very clumsy.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the Willa in Lakota, and that's North and South Dakota. They're 2 to 3 feet tall. They love beautiful horses. Now, I've got a story. A young lad went out in the morning to take care of his horse, and he found the horse's mane was full of braids, and the tail full of braids, little braids, just beautiful. And he came running into his father and saying, the horse has got little braids in the hair, you'd better come out and look. So they all went out to look, and they saw the braids and didn't know what was going on, and the father says, the little people did it. And the boy was going to take all the braids out, and he says, no, leave the braids in there. You'd let them come out on their own. They were taking offense to it.
Yeah.
Might kill
them. You did all that work, and you took them apart again. They get mad at you. This is not to be confused with witches' knots, other larger braids, much larger braids that you'll occasionally find in horses' hair, which we've done previous shows about, and the Bigfoot connection to that. And we'll just leave it kind of there because this is not a polite topic to discuss. But suffice it to say, teeny tiny, intricate, neat braids, not Bigfoot. We're talking about little people doing that.
Yes, little braids.
Mm-hmm.
Now the Kuai Anasakas is from the Choctaw. I might have not got that name right, but I think it's close. In Florida and Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana, those little guys are 2 to 3 feet tall. Now, they help the Choctaw at times. They're rarely seen, with the exception of prophets and medicine men and women, and sometimes children. We have the Atasi in Alabama from the Coxsackie, and they're 2 to 3 feet tall. Now, there's 2 other types that are in Alabama, and I cannot pronounce their names at all. Other. I tried today, and it just...
Can you spell it? Can you spell it for us? We can go Google it then. And I figured it was completely a waste of time to try that, and I got one of the indigenous native tribes' names for one of the little people and went and did a search for it. No, there is information. There's even Google images on some of this. It's, they're artist renderings, but there's stuff out there. So you can go do research, go find it.
The little people in the Arctic, I couldn't pronounce their names at first, but I'm getting better.
Yeah, it sounds like the pronunciation is like Urchinhawk or something like that. It's like virtually unpronounceable.
Yeah, Urchinrak, with a heart on the H.
Yeah. I know I've seen some of the other native names for the little people, and they're just like such a mouthful, and you don't know exactly how some of this is pronounced unless you're actually a member of the tribe, and go, okay, this kind of doesn't look like it would work in English. What were you intending this to sound like? And get them to pronounce it for you, and then you're like, oh, okay, now it makes sense,
Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. ITU-US-ASA apostrophe KI. That's one. The other one is I apostrophe STI dash TSA apostrophe HTSA apostrophe dash NA.
Yeah, I mean, so to me that sounds like a line of computer code, not a name. But, apparently they have some way to pronounce it, so that's cool. But, here it is again. They've got names for all these little guys. So have you gotten to the point yet where you're taking these individual names and descriptions from certain areas and going, okay, this sounds like a Puckwudgie, lump them into that pile. Oh, this sounds like a gnome, lump them into that pile. And sort of going around sort of like trying to categorize at this point yet?
Well, I have them categorized in the hairy little people, the troll people, the little people that look like us, and the gnome people.
Okay. So you do have slots for, like if I gave you a name from little people from some tribe, you would have, okay, that's one of these type little people.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, that's very handy to know. You should write a book on this.
That's what my husband told me.
Well, it's needful information. Nobody else is out there doing the damn research. You get somebody out there to do the research, why not put the information out?
It would be done in volumes. First, I would start in Canada and in America and work my way over. Because so far, and we've only covered a few, in Canada and America, I have found 19 different types of proto-pygmies.
Wow.
14 in America, 5 in Canada so far, and my work is ongoing. I know there's more. 3 in Mexico, 2 in Australia, 3 in Africa, 1 in Philippines, 1 in Greece, 2 in Germany, 50 in Europe, of course, and 5 in Asia. And, of course, there's the Minihoni in Hawaii. The Aztecs even had a name for these little people, and they called them Chinqua. So it goes that far back. I know First Nations and Native Americans say that they have always been here. They have been here when we arrived.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I don't think they were like riding around on the Mayflower coming over here with Columbus or anything.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, if that's how the natives even got here, because they might have been here before that too. We don't know.
Yeah.
It starts to look like they were back here before, like, 2 glaciation epochs ago at least.
Yeah.
But you mentioned 2 types of little people in Australia, which, of course, I'm interested in. And I've had guests on from Australia before. And I know that they have a mini squatch over there that they call a Jungidi. What else do they have?
I can't pronounce the name, but I'm getting it. I have a very close friend that lives in Tasmania, and he's going to find out for me.
Okay, well, Tasmania, that's not Australia. That's
he
a
works
separate
in
island.
Australia.
Yeah. And it could be just another alternate name for the same critter, because I know for a fact there's like close to a dozen different regional variation names on what they call the Jungidi. So It could be just that. But it'd be interesting if there's more than one actual type of little person, because the way the Jungidi is described, it's like the mini squatch. It's like the apple snitches. here in North America, same sort of thing. Looks like a person, covered with fur, including or hair, including the face, and no signs of them having any kind of technology or tools or clothing or anything like that. So real interesting sort of thing. It's like, well, here on the other side of the dang planet, and you've got these sort of legends and people still seeing these things that sound identical to what people over here are seeing. What's going on?
Yeah, and they all have the same similarities.
Mm-hmm.
The tallest being no more than 3 feet or a little bit. They have large eyes. They're strong, very fast. They all live underground. And with the exception of a few, they all wear natural fibers or animal skin.
Yeah. And that's the last show you were on. He brought up a very interesting point and this is something that applies to giants and some of the other cryptids too. They're always said to live underground. And it could be that these are just, like relic hominids, various types that are left over from before the last cataclysm. The ones that survived it are the ones that moved underground. And after that, they kind of went, the surface is kind of dangerous. We'll just keep living underground and come up when we have to.
That is a very good theory, too.
And I tend to think there's something behind that, because if it was just an imaginary creature, you wouldn't have the homogeneous information coming out from across the world that all seems to be pointing in the same direction, saying the same thing. And it's always, they live underground, they live underground, they live underground. Well, if they're that little, they don't need to live underground to avoid being spotted by us. So, again, where is that coming from? And if they are a real creature, which they probably are, and people have seen them, so, I have no reason to doubt they're an iPhone tracks, so it seems to be real to me. How is it that, again, the same legend keeps creeping in that all these little guys live underground? No matter, it seems like, where in the world people are talking about them, they're always saying they live underground.
Yes, and with the same similarities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost like it's so much information that tends to collaborate the other information that you're looking at, that it's really hard to just dismiss it and go, well, it's just by sheer chance that the Shoshone and the Crow have legends about little people that are pretty much exactly the same as leprechauns, with the variation being their clothing. Yeah. It's like they're the same size, they live the same way, they've got the same nasty attitude, like right down the line, and you're going, well, how did they get the same weird legend over here? They obviously had no contact whatsoever. They were telling these stories over here before the white man ever showed up.
Yes.
What's the better explanation for this? They made it up independently, or there's actually something behind it. These
are the exact reasons that got me researching and investigating it even more.
Mm-hmm.
And it is like I said, there is something to this. I mean, we have the tracks, which we get Bigfoot tracks.
Yep.
And we get Homo florensis, the Hobbit. Now that's some serious proof.
Yeah, you got a skeleton of a little person, not just one, but several. We know they were real. At some point, they definitely lived on Earth. Are they still around? Well, considering that they're real and they lived here pretty recently, I'd pretty much lay money on it.
And Homo, the Hobbit, Homo florensis, was just a little over 3 feet tall,
mm-hmm.
which is the same size as most of the little people that we see, or proto-pygmies.
Yep. And go one step further, if I had to guess and say, okay, take the skeleton of the Hobbit, which one of the little proto-pygmies are we talking about? I would have to throw my money on, we're probably talking about an apple snitch.
Or Ibu Gogo.
Yeah.
Same area.
Yeah. Just their version, their local version of what we would call an apple snitch over here. One of the little hairy guys.
It could be, because once you have a skeleton, you have a skeleton. You don't know if it's going to be hairy.
No, you can't tell any of that from the bones that you've got. You can only get a rough guess on what it was shaped like. And even like reconstructing facial features is not a science. It's an art, and there's a lot of guesswork to it, because there's some people that have taken the Neanderthal skull and built up the clay on it like the same procedure they use when they find a crime victim's skull and they want to make a face to go with the skull to figure out what the person looked like, they can use these certain points on the skull and build them up to a certain level with clay and make a clay reconstruction of this face that'll be startlingly close to what the person actually looked like. However, this is all based on the presupposition that these skulls are from humans. If it's not from a human, you don't know what you're building. And if you do a different version of it, which was done by a brilliant guy named Danny Vendramini, called the Neanderthal predation theory, and he took the Neanderthal skull and said, let's build it up if it looked more like an ape rather than a human. Everybody builds them up to look like humans. We got no proof that they look like humans. Let's build them up and see what they'd look like as an ape. Well, he got the facial reconstruction done. It was included in the book. This guy does not believe in Bigfoot or have anything to do with it, but all the Bigfoot people in the South that had seen a Type 2 Bigfoot look at this picture and go, that's exactly what I saw.
I think I've read about that.
Yeah. And they've even done better versions of it. They've taken the original image and photoshopped out the imperfections that make it different than the actual real thing that they saw, which are pretty minor. The original had like cat's eyes on it, which they don't have. And there's some changes in the nose and whatnot. But you make those minor changes on it, and it's like bingo bango, that's a Type 2 Bigfoot. And there's people that are seeing these things still today down in the Deep South. Now, I'm not saying that a Type 2 Bigfoot is a Neanderthal, but what I'm saying is that just because you have a skull doesn't mean you can reconstruct what that thing looked like in real life.
Yeah, me and a few other researchers weren't surprised by what you're talking about because we're all supposed to be related.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't a surprise to us. We're like, yeah, that's cool. It could be.
Yeah, that really shocked me when that started getting some traction, and a few of the Bigfoot people ran across it and they went, oh my God, that's what I saw. And I'm like, okay, well, this is an interesting turn of events. Thank you for a pretty good depiction of a Type 2 Bigfoot there, Danny Vendramini, non-Bigfoot guy who had no idea that's what you were doing when you were doing it. We really appreciate it.
Exactly.
But, man, we could go on for weeks about the little people, and I definitely want to have you back again in the future to expand more on the information that you're gathering at this point. Are there any books that you'd recommend on this that are pretty good? I saw there was one by Christopher out specifically on the little people of the Arctic that looked like it might be pretty good, but I haven't had a chance to actually read it yet, so I can't recommend it. Are there any of them that you know of?
Yes, I actually have one really good one. It has to do with the guest you had on another show about the little people. And it's called Secrets and Mysteries of the Cherokee People. And it's by Lynn King Lawsing. Now that I would recommend. It's full of stories and it's got some info in it, but the stories are fantastic.
This is Little People of the Cherokee?
Yes, the Cherokee
okay.
Little People. Or the Little People of Pryor Mountain.
Little People of Pryor Mountain. Oh, God. Okay, so, again, we're talking about those nasty little Puckwudgies over here. Yeah, that's what my previous guest was talking about.
Yeah, these guys are different. These are helpful little guys.
Okay.
And their name, I believe, is pronounced Winesoon. I will double-check on that 1 second. Another tongue twister.
Yeah, the ones she was dealing with are the ones that are like generally hostile toward humans, but they developed a relationship with one of her ancestors just because he was by himself all the time and they were living in the same area and he brought them with peaches. But they have no, as far as those guys that they're talking, and that's the Namirigar, definitely dangerous. They've got their own little underground cities. They know where they are. They stay away from that area. As a matter of fact, there aren't even any roads going there. There's a reason for that. So, yeah, it's extremely well ingrained in their culture, and they still regularly have sightings of these things over on the res.
The name for the Cherokee little people are Yanwai to Summit, and I can send you a list of all these names.
How do you spell that one? Let's just get that one out there for people to look up.
YUNYIESDI.
Wow, it's like every time they come up with a name for the little people, they got to make up something unpronounceable so so somebody else can't accidentally get their attention by saying the name, right?
Shall I leave everybody with a couple of stories that I have?
Oh, please do.
In Marshall, Alaska, in 2008. And this has to do with the urchin rats. And there are 4 subspecies of them. And again, I'm not even going to even try to pronounce them. A man was out hunting for birds on a snowmobile 3 hours from town. And he just happened to come across the little boy in the middle of nowhere. As I said, this is 3 hours from town. And this happened to be a spot where big brown bears or grizzly bears visit quite often.
Mm-hmm.
He knew the little boy from his village. So he went over to talk to him. And the little boy was scared, confused, didn't know where he was, how he got there, didn't even know what happened. So the man took him back to his village.
So he brought this the kid back to the village then. Did the kid ever remember what ended up happening to him, how he got out there?
After the next day, after the little boy had calmed down, he said that he'd been taken by the little people.
Oh, God.
Into Pilcher Mountain. And he also said that he spoke with a woman who had been taken by the little people 40 years ago. Now, they had fed him. Now, all these years later, the young lad is suffering from PTSD because of his experience. Now, I'm going to be put in touch with him in the next month at least to see if I can get some more information, if he'll actually talk about it.
Yeah, it'd be awesome if you would.
Now, in 2005, in Palmer, Alaska, a young girl disappeared from her parents' front yard, just gone. Now, moments before, the mother had seen what appeared to be a childlike being running through the woods near her house. I'll look into them, see if they take kids, because I know a lot of little people do take little kids.
Yeah.
Bring them back. Sometimes they don't.
Well, and here's another thing, too. The mountain giant reports that I've looked into, there's 2 of them where people were kidnapped by these things and let loose of their own devices. They got away. And same thing, one of them already had a captive there who told them, you need to get out of here. They keep me around to do chores for them, but they're just going to eat you. So it's not just the little people that kidnap people, you know, and it makes me wonder how many of these missing 411 reports that are actually authentic and not just easily explained away in some other manner may not actually be Bigfoot related, but might be little people swiping somebody never to be seen again, especially the little kids. That thing, you know, there's some sort of attraction to the little kids for Bigfoot too, for sure, because we got plenty of reports of that. But the whole creepy thing about the little people liking to interact with little kids and like, oh, maybe let's just bring them to our underground city for a while and we'll decide if we want to ever bring them back again. Oh, my God.
Yes, it is said that they will take a liking to some children, and they'll watch over them their whole lives, bring them good luck.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also said in some tribes that if the child is abused, they will come and take him away, and they'll never see him again. Just gone.
And that's the other thing that I've heard from some of their legends, too, that if you, and this is especially prevalent in Europe, with the fairy mounds and that sort of stuff over there, if you accept an invitation from the little people to go visit their underground dwelling, you will probably never come back again.
That's true. Yeah, there are a lot of similarities between the little people in Europe and the little people over here.
I know, isn't that just creepy as hell? That just creeps me out every time. It's like, you know, if these things are just imaginary, there shouldn't be all these similarities over and over and over and over again. Yes. These cultures were not connected. They were not sharing information. How did they come up with the same critters?
Exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, that's, you know, part of the mystery with Bigfoot too. You know, it's just like this thing is all over the place, and in some places, I know researchers in certain areas where it's like they are definitely being messed with by the powers that be. Why are they covering this up? And it's not just in the U.S; it's all over the place.
Yeah, and I also know that little people and Bigfoot hang out in the same territories.
Mm-hmm.
Over this past summer, there have been 3 little people sightings in Alabama. The last one is a possible sighting. He's not quite sure. But they're by Bigfoot researchers.
I don't know if you saw it, but Colorado Bigfooter there that gets the tree structures and stuff up around 10,000 feet all the time. He found an area with just tiny stuff in it, and he went, I think the little people are living here in the same Bigfoot area, because look at the size of these structures and stuff, and this whole area is different, and it's weird, and I'm getting out of here, that sort of thing.
There have been tools found in Alaska, in England, little arrowheads in Kentucky, and people write this off as all their kids' toys. Who makes arrows for little kids with stone arrowheads?
Yeah. Yeah, and I've done some research into that, and in fact, I talked to the natives about that, and some of the tribes, like the Navajo, for instance, would make teeny tiny, itty-bitty arrowheads, and they would use them on bamboo shafts. Now, you can't put much pressure on a bamboo shaft, it'll snap. On the other hand, if you've got a teeny tiny head on it, you don't have to put that much pressure on it to make it penetrate the target, and that was the whole idea behind it. But the question here comes in, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Did they find some of these, you know, arrow points and went, oh, here's kind of a neat, did they see little people using them and went, hell, they can kill something big with these teeny little arrow points, we should try that?
Yeah, and the other thing is, of course, in England, they didn't have indigenous people to have arrowheads.
Yeah, so where were they coming from?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The last sighting I had took place just a couple days ago.
Awesome.
In Alaska again, September 4th, 2017, at 3 a.m., so in early morning, late night, we saw a 1-foot-tall little person while she was out getting water. He was wearing sealskin clothes, and she's quite definite about what she saw.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just got this sighting today. Man.
Well, don't forget to follow up on some of these. You know, getting a first-hand account is just like gold when you can get it.
Exactly. Now, I get more reports from Alaska because of the blog that I wrote about the urchin racks.
So now everybody's contacting you. We got little people reports over here.
And the more I get, the better. I have an email address that people can contact me at. And if you don't want me to use your name, they don't have to.
Go ahead, tell us what the address is so they can get a hold of you. So
it's Robyn Moonshadow at, sorry, I'll try that again. Robyn Moonshadow, TCF@gmail.com.
There you go. You can get a hold of Robyn. You can give her all your little people accounts, and you got somebody that's going to actually be compiling this information, putting it together, and it's so way past time for this to be happening. We need more people out there doing research on the little people, and I just think it's spectacular you're doing it. I'm so glad that I managed to get a hold of you, and really thankful that you're willing to come on the show and talk about this a little bit. we like to cover mystery hominids, and mainly Bigfoot, but this is another class of mystery hominids. And just so that you guys know, this person does not do research into the fairy folk, the little guys with like wings or something. You think of Tinkerbell or something like that. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about sightings of little people, whatever size, but they don't have wings, and they have various shapes and characteristics. There's apparently more than one kind, and that's what she researches. And she's here to give us some updates and talk about stuff that she's been finding out and things she's been investigating and what she's got coming up here in the near future. And with that, welcome back to the show, Robyn Moonshadow. Hey, Robyn.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
And like I was telling you before we actually started doing the recording, I just had a listener of my show here a couple of days ago sent me some interesting pictures to look at, and I passed them along to you just a little bit ago to take a look at, and sort of interested in what you thought about them.
Well, they're absolutely fascinating, and the handprint is the first handprint of a little person that I have seen yet. I've seen plenty of little people tracks, and they are little people tracks. They are not children or baby tracks. They are in remote places where kids would not be. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this handprint is particularly interesting because it's like a grown-up person's handprint. The lines on the bottom of its hand are very thick, and of course, we don't get those until we get older.
Yep.
You can even see the thumbnail, and it's quite a little bit jagged in the picture, and it's quite heavy. And the footprint, of course, is always interesting because it has dermal ridges like a Bigfoot does, and you can see where it goes barefooted a lot because it is a flat foot, and it doesn't have an arch.
Mm-hmm.
And this, of course, like you said, was found under a bridge.
Yeah, under a bridge along the Rio Grande River, just December, a couple months ago. At the time that he was there taking the pictures, the mud that whatever it was it stepped into was frozen. And under a bridge, of course, it's not getting rained or whatever on it to get rid of the indentations until the spring flood comes along. They're there.
And in the winter, and again, where no child or toddler would be wandering around on its own.
Yeah. Well, like I pointed out earlier, just discounting the footprints and saying, okay, maybe there was some really weird mutant kid with a thin foot that was tiny running around down there in December for some weird reason. Look at the size of that handprint. That would have to be like a preemie newborn baby. What mom is going to take preemie newborn baby underneath a bridge in December and stick a little hand in the mud to leave a print there?
Right. And as far as we know, there weren't any other tracks around before.
No, just those other the little ones that we got the pictures of. That's it.
Yep. No other tracks around.
No human prints. No.
No. No, and of course, that if there was an adult there with a baby, there'd be other prints, but there weren't any.
Exactly. Yeah, a baby that size especially would have to have an adult carrying them. And again, the size of the tracks, there may have been, more than one of there. It may have been a littler one that the little one was carrying that left the handprint. We don't know, but definitely not a human tracks there to show that any human had come in, carried a baby in there, and had it put its hand in the mud.
Yeah, you can almost make out some little wrinkles, too.
Yep.
In this handprint. So I think it's absolutely amazing.
It's pretty stunning. I mean, I wish you would have casted it.
I was thinking the same thing. Oh, I'd love a cast of that.
Yeah, no kidding, right? You could make a fob for a necklace out of that thing. It's so tiny. Wow. So yeah, cool. There's an example of the kind of stuff that you do the investigations and research on. And last time we had you on, you were just kind of getting the ball rolling on cataloging what various varieties or sub-varieties of these little guys there are across the North American continent. And since then, you've been doing like surveys of other parts of the world and stuff too. So you've really been busy with it. And also, you've been going out and talking to the knowledgeable people from the local tribes on what their legends are on this subject, and then even collecting sightings and reports from people. So go at it, Robyn. Let's hear what you've been coming up with here recently.
Oh, I talk to people whenever I can, and if I get a report, I try to reach out and get them to get back to me because, as we all know, sometimes people are a little bit leery because they don't want to be called crazy. You know, have people in white coats come and say, hi, I want to go for a visit to my house. So they don't always get back to me, but I do try, and I'm not here to judge because I believe these little things do exist because there is so much more proof of their existence than we actually have for Bigfoot. I mean, we have skeletal remains now found in Indonesia. They call them the Hobbit. The local people speak of them, and they call them Ibu Gogo.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still seen on occasion on the island today.
Apparently, they may have captured one on video too. If you saw the footage of the guys over there that were like dirt biking it through the woods down this jungle path, and they had GoPros on their cycles to capture the mighty action and spectacular whatnot that's going on with their little race. And one of these little guys came running out of the jungle, ran like 100, maybe 150 feet at least down the road in front of them, and then cut off the path on the other side and took off back into the jungle again. And they got the little guy on video. It's really obvious.
Oh yeah, that is the one that I actually believe it's real because the kids were doing nothing, just traveling on their dirt bikes, and one of the kids was recording it and got the little guy on tape or on video, and it was just quick, and this is how a lot of these sightings happen because these little guys are fast. And a lot of these stories I have is just like that. Somebody will be walking along, and they'll see them, and they'll be gone.
Mm-hmm.
They are so fast.
I actually know somebody that has a friend that lives over in the area where that was filmed, and he asked him about it, and he said, oh, yeah, that's just like common knowledge here. Those, little guys live out in the jungle, and, in the video you can see he's running around barefoot. He's basically got hardly any clothes on him. And he said, you would absolutely have to be insane to go into the jungle around here without shoes on or anything like that because, all kinds of nasty stuff that can and will kill you. And you're just totally asking for it. And here's this little bitty guy, dressed like a little caveman with a loincloth, zipping down the road. And so he said, yeah, and they've got a really bad reputation, too. The locals won't go anywhere near them. They're afraid they'll get killed by them. So they stay away from them.
Oh, yeah, a lot of these little ones are nasty. They don't want anything to do with us. And then you have the ones that really like us and go out of their way to help us.
Those are the ones you want to know.
Yeah. I'll go over, now we covered this in the last show, the different types, their appearance. So I'll go over it one more time. Okay, we have the hairy ones that are small and are sometimes mistaken for small or baby Bigfoot, but their appearance is a little bit different. And then we have the goblin-looking ones that are typical goblin-looking, stringy, skinny, come in a variety of colors from very dark black to sometimes even white. And we have the gnomes, also called tomtees or nissi, and they look like garden gnomes. And the typical garden gnome size is their regular size. And they help people, they help animals. And I covered that in a Christmas blog I did. Quite fascinating, these little guys. They have a terrible temper, though. And then we have trolls because they look like trolls. Like the Puckwudgie is a gray color. Looks like a troll. It even has a pot belly. And they're very
incredibly bad reputations. Incredibly bad reputation.
Yes, they are dangerous. And then we have the ones that look like dwarves. Not Gimli size from Lord of the Rings, of course, but they are smaller. And they look like the typical dwarf you would think of, and long white beards, and they tend to be either good or bad. And then we have the elves, which come in a variety of sizes from again, and I'm bringing it up again, Lord of the Rings size, like Legolas size. And then we have very small elves. They have pointed ears, the little nose, and they all have just beautiful eyes, whatever color it is. If it's blue, they're bright blue. If they're green, they're just bright green, and even brown, they're like a chocolate brown. And they have I guess you'd call it just a glow about them, that they're very beautiful. And then we have the little native ones. They look very Native American Indian. And we also see a type like this in Australia that look like little Aboriginals. And they're dangerous little buggers, they are, and I'll cover them in a minute. So
now, before you go on to them, let's get one thing pretty well organized here. Now, I've talked about, and even recently, the three little kinds of hominids, well, not necessarily all little, but the Yowies and the bigger, less frequent version that are presumed to be pretty dangerous and people stay away from them. And then the littler ones, the Junjudies. And now, are they talking about like a little Aborigine-looking guy with the Junjudi, or is that actually their like Albert Twitch mini squatch type?
The type that I'm talking about is, what is he called now? Hold on one second. I'll get that out there. He is called a Puckwudgie, and he is benevolent. Wooclarjee.
Okay. Well, that's a mouthful. So that must be the Aborigine name, I'm guessing. And these guys just look like little itty-bitty Aborigines, basically. How big are they?
The one that this particular young lad saw while he was playing in Perth, Australia, was about a foot tall. He was dressed in kangaroo skin and grass or straw. And he actually had a woomera, and I believe that's the type of spear that you put into a slot and throw it. And he just happened to be in this little guy's way, and he threw the spear and got this particular kid right in the foot with it.
Ow!
Yep. And now apparently they are malevolent, and the Aboriginals stay away from them.
Yeah, no kidding.
They just let them be.
Same sort of reputation. You get a lot of that where a lot of the little people sort of have that leave them alone and hopefully they'll leave you alone sort of connotation going along with them.
Oh, yeah, and if you see them, pretend you don't see them. Because depending on what type they are, they could bring you bad luck or they could bring you good luck.
Yeah. Yeah, some of them I sort of get the impression that if you see them, the only reason is because they're letting you see them. So, like, what do you make of that then? It's like, is that an overture of friendship, or are they just, like, cursing you on purpose because they think you suck so bad? They're going to show you themselves so you get a curse on you.
I think a lot of these little people are very cautious of us.
Yeah, for understandably so. We tend to be pretty aggressive and well-organized.
When the first settlers came over and started seeing these little people, they would shoot at them with guns.
Yeah, thanks, settlers. That really helped a lot.
They didn't know what they were. They thought that they were the devil's imps, or maybe some kind of little demon, so they would shoot at them. And there was a story that I got from the late 1800s about a man who had got a little one caught in a bear trap. Now, he wasn't hurt because his foot was so small that his foot fit in between the teeth of the trap. Now, his leg was scratched up a little bit, and the man helped him out, and he stayed with the man, and the man bandaged his leg up. But then the little person's mommy and daddy came to get him. They were not happy, and they just took the little guy and they went away. Didn't say thank you, just came and got the kid and left. Of course, I'm thinking, well, that little boy was in a spot he shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
And this was in Minnesota.
God. Puckwudgies.
Well, this was actually it wasn't a Puckwudgie, but it was more of an elf type.
Mm-hmm.
More like what I would say is like a Keebler elf.
See, that's one of the things that always kind of freaks me out about the whole thing, is because a lot of them fall into the same size range, and part of the legendary of the Puckwudgies is that they can actually change shape and, make themselves appear to be small animals that they're not, or even a combination shape that they've been sighted in a few times occasionally, where they look sort of like half little gray goblinoid and half porcupine, like they got the porcupine spikes all over their head and their back. But from the front side, they look like a little guy.
Yeah, I have a lot of information and a lot of sightings about Puckwudgies since I did the last show.
Cool.
And a lot. And now, when it comes to looking like a porcupine, it makes me wonder, can they change shape, or are they very good at camouflage and make themselves look that way?
Yeah, or killed a porcupine and is using part of its hide for, like, a cloak or something like that. Yeah, you don't know what to do with stories like that, because it's easy. You see something so weird like that to start with, and then it's like doing something like that, and you're like, well, what do you make of this? Like when Kat saw the face eater over here by the Bridger, Montana, up in the mountains, it had like part of a bear hide on. It was sort of like wearing like a one-armed vest or something. So, and there's a critter that you wouldn't expect would be doing something like that, but that's what it was doing. So,
yeah, the Nirumbee that are in your area. Now, I hate to be partial, but the Nirumbee are one of my favorite little people because they are just little tacticians. Not to mention, I know that they can be quite vicious if they want to. But they just, because they are so clever and so smart, they are one of my favorite little people. Getting back to the Puckwudgies for a second, into the Nicomo, which looks like a Puckwudgie, but it is benevolent. So it makes me wonder if this was one of the Puckwudgies groups that decided, well, we'll just behave ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have reports of, I have a report of Puckwudgies just walking along, not doing anything to anybody. Walk down the road, and here they go. Don't think twice about us. Where a Puckwudgie would scare us.
Mm-hmm.
I have a report from 2015 in what's called the Bridgewater Triangle. They got a flat tire. They got out to change it, and the Puckwudgie just comes walking down the road and stares at them.
Oh, God.
Just stands there and stares at them like, you're not supposed to be here. Get out of here. And even if they're just a couple of feet high, it scared this couple really bad. And she said it's the fastest her husband had ever changed a tire. And he left the jack behind, and he wasn't going back for it.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, that would kind of freak me out a lot, too.
Yeah.
Quite a ways back here, we had a guest on the show who's a native from the Crow tribe, and she was talking about encounters that I think it was her great uncle, and the rest of her family actually had too, including her, with these little guys. And the description of all of them around the area was, pretty much the same. They dressed like old, native-style clothing. They had the buckskins with the fringes hanging down and everything. They had their hair in braids. The only difference, and they even had sort of the same dark brown sunburn type, skin color. But the eyes were bigger than on a human. The mouth was bigger, and they had like fangs or shark-like teeth. They were pretty scary. But other than that, they kind of looked like miniature, local natives and dressed the same way. And when her great uncle was talking with them, they were talking. The first one that talked to him was talking and I think the only reason he even understood this thing is because he was like privy to the stuff that was going on culturally with the elders and stuff, and knew some of that, and he knew some of their original language. And the only words he could understand of what it was saying were from the original language. But there were other words that was thrown in that he doesn't know if it was like part of their language or if it was some even older thing. So he was only like catching like maybe 2 out of 3 words or something like that when it was talking to him. But he was pretty surprised that it's like it knew this really old version of the crow tongue that it was talking to him.
Oh yeah, the Nirumbee loved the crow people.
Yeah.
And they were always around, always helping the crow people. And I cover this in my blog talking about the Nirumbee. That's red caps. We'll talk about red caps in a minute as contrary to gnomes. Now, with the Nirumbee, like I said, they love the crow people. They impart spiritual help on them. They teach medicine people the ways of medicine.
The crow lived right next to where the little people lived, and no other tribe could get away with that.
Right.
And it also makes me wonder, did you ever, sorry to digress again, but before we get too far off the subject and go on to all the other cool things you want to talk about, since this is in my local area, and I got an interesting story about them, have you ever heard the story about when the Sioux raiding party went after the crow?
Oh, yes, one of my favorite stories. And the Nirumbee.
You want to tell it then? If you've heard that one, that's pretty gripping, and that explains to you why, surrounded by, the Blackfoot, the Shoshone, the Sioux, all these other huge, nasty tribes that were not friends with them, somehow the crow weren't getting killed off.
Yes, the Nirumbee would fight side by side with the crow. And they would sneak into the invading army's camp during the night. They would steal their children. They would take the women. They would kill the men. And if they didn't kill the men, they would injure them so they couldn't fight. They would go down and they would kill the horses. And they would actually rip the hearts out of the horses. And
that's pretty damn scary. Yeah, do you remember the exact numbers on that raiding party and how many there were supposed to be?
There was a raiding party of Sioux that was 250.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I remember the number was gigantic, and out of that there was like a handful that survived overnight, and they all came back maimed.
Oh yeah, and
they all said it wasn't the crow; it was the little people that got them at night after they had raided the one village and destroyed it, and they camped too close to the prior mountains.
Yes.
And the little buddies of the crow came out at night and massacred the Sioux. Oh,
yes. And I believe it because the story is very old. And the Sioux were great warriors. So that tells you a lot about...
And they had the crow gigantically outnumbered. Again, it's something that I've been wondering for decades now. How the hell did the crow even survive? They're a tiny tribe outnumbered by enemy tribes. All around them, there's enemy tribes that have them way outnumbered. How did they even survive it? We may have an answer.
Yes. I think it just happens to be that their nature, like with the Cherokee little people, the Yonwi Junsti, that they just might take a liking to you. And if they do, they will watch over your family for generations. So it could be something like that. Yeah.
Well, the story that she recounted with her uncle, he gave it a can of peaches to eat, and it like swallowed the whole can, basically just poured down its throat in one big gulp, big grin left, and then came back like a couple months later with a friend and wanted some more peaches. That's how he made friends with him. And then that winter when he was snowed in for 2 weeks, couldn't get out, get any food, go anywhere, there's this tapping on the door, pushes against the giant snow pile that's piled in front of the door, gets it open a crack, and there's a dead deer lying there on the pile of snow.
Oh, yes, the law of equivalent exchange. You help me, I help you. Yes.
Yep.
And with the peaches, all these little people love sweet stuff. And I think it's because they're so fast, they must need a lot of sugar.
Yeah. Oh, God, they're already so hyper. Can you imagine them having a sugar fit? That'd be really bad.
It'd be like watching them in fast forward.
They're already in fast forward.
Yeah.
They move so fast you wouldn't even see them. Oh, wait, maybe that's how they do it. I don't know.
I spoke to a couple of crow last year, and they think that the Nirumbee numbers have declined over the last 50, 100 years. Because although they are still seen, they just don't see them in as many numbers as they used to. And, of course, the crow people are very protective of their little people.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them one bit.
Well, it sounds like good allies to have on your side for sure, especially if you're going to be living next to them. You want them for friends, no question about that, or you won't be living next to them. But
and other tribes wouldn't even go near the mounds that they have there because they would be attacked by these little people.
Yeah.
Like, don't go near the mounds, but the crow people can go near the mounds.
Wow. That's just amazing. Hey, did you catch the game cam pic that one of my other recurring guests, Randy Caveman Yazzie, got right out in front of his house? It's like one of the little furry, squatch-looking little people. It's about a foot tall, and he's just running as fast as he can and didn't make it across in front before the camera snapped him, apparently.
Wow, that must be a good camera.
He was trying to get pictures of the Bigfoot that keeps sneaking peeks in his kitchen window all the time, and he got this thing by accident. And what the hell?
They do that. Bigfoot will take a peek in your window.
Yeah, he's got pictures of him doing it. He's sitting inside the kitchen, looking away from the window, taking a picture over his shoulder, and you can see the eyes in the window looking at him.
Oh, yeah, I've heard lots of stories like that. I think that sometimes with the Bigfoot, they're just as curious about us as we are about them.
Yeah.
Or maybe they
where he's at, he's got a troop that lives around that area, and they're pretty regular. They're on sort of neutral terms with each other. He doesn't mess with them, and they don't steal a lot of food from him.
You know, we have a bunch of little people over here in Canada, too, that I've been talking to people about. Different kinds, of course. I have a couple here from the Micmac Reservation in Nova Scotia.
Right on.
And
Land of the
he's actually a friend of mine, and he's got two little people that come in and out of his house on a weekly basis just to mess around with him. And they're not mean, they're just in there to joke around, and as soon as he gets up to tell them to go, they're gone, out the back door. Just gone. And then he won't see them for a couple days, a week, maybe a month, but they always come back. He thinks they're young ones and they're just joking around.
They like to play pranks on them. You know, and that's another thing that recurs in folklore all over the place, including really old legends out of Europe, Eastern Europe, all over there, too, that some of the little people aren't necessarily nasty and foul-tempered, but they're really mischievous. They think it's just, really funny to play pranks on humans. And you get the same kind of thing from Bigfoot, too. It'll be like living around somebody's property for a long period of time. The people sort of know the Bigfoot are there. The Bigfoot sort of know that people know that they're there, and they like to play pranks on them just because apparently it's fun.
Yeah. I was actually, night before last, I was talking to someone about this very thing, and we wondered if they were like the teenager Bigfoot, and we kind of agreed that teenagers, whether it be human or Bigfoot, are all the same.
Yeah.
Pulling pranks.
Yeah, and even if they're warned by the elders, stay away from humans. That's dangerous. Don't go down by that house there. Don't watch the Johnson family dinner. You got to stay away from there. He's got a shotgun. So, of course, they're like, what do you want to do? Well, let's go sneak down there. We're not supposed to go.
Yeah. I double dog dare you to go and knock on that person's house.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Like they get bored. Well, what are you doing tonight? I was thinking about going down to the bend in the road, wait until the car was close, and then running across. What do you got going? I know we're not supposed to go there, but I'm going to go watch the Johnson family dinner.
Yep. And try to figure out what they're eating.
Yeah, what is it that they're eating? Or watching you watch TV through the window. Caveman had one to do that.
Watch TV through the window. Yeah.
He said it was huge, too. He kind of like, you had this feeling something was watching. You kind of glanced back with one eye, and you could see this just gigantic, huge shape leaning over, looking through the window. And he's on the couch, like right next to the window, and across the room's the TV. And he's watching Planet of the Apes. And he just kind of cringes and grits his teeth, and he's going, oh, my God.
That's hilarious. And that's why I have curtains on all my windows.
Yeah, I think I'm encouraging him to do that. I don't think that's the same place he's living at now. This was quite a while ago. But, yeah, I can see why he was curious to watch that show, but, oh, my God, bad message. Don't give me any ideas.
Maybe they like the idea of the apes ruling the world.
Yeah, I'm sure they would. Let's not give them any ideas. So anyway, getting on from the little munchkins over here that are the allies of the crow, let's talk about some of these other guys now.
Okay, well, we'll go back over here to Canada for a second. Now, again, in Nova Scotia, on the Mi'kmaq Reservation, or Mi'kmaq, however you'd like to pronounce it. And this was back in the late 70s, early 80s. And this man was walking along with several of his friends and just saw a little guy come out of the woods walking on the road. He was wearing a blue coat, red hat, little pants, little shoes. And one of his friends thought that they thought it was funny to chase after this little guy. And he did. He chased him up the road. The little guy ran off. He didn't catch him, obviously, but he got sick 3 days later and died.
Whoa.
And the man who told me the story said, nope, if I see them, I don't acknowledge that they're there unless they acknowledge me. Better to be safe than sorry. And he says, don't ever chase them.
No.
And, of course, there is this great movie called The Fairy Faith, and it's available on YouTube. It's great. Did some investigations, a little bit all over the place, and one of the stories came from, again, up near the Mi'kmaq Reservation, and her name was Mary Rose Julian, and she took her kids to the spot where she picnics at, and she wasn't there long, and she started hearing music. And it kind of scared her because the music was really odd. So she told her kids, get in the car, let's go, we're leaving. And, of course, one of the kids, being kids, didn't want to leave. He was off playing in the water. So they got the little boy back in the car, and the mother says, don't look back. But one of her girls, and I believe her name was April, looked back.
Uh-oh.
And what she saw was a troop of little people come out of the woods singing and dancing and forming a circle, just dancing around. And she didn't tell her mother what she saw for something like 20 years.
Wow.
Because she was so scared.
Do you have, I was going to say, do you ever get, I've heard like some vague connections to this before, and I had somebody actually approach me here right in Missoula and say, do you know anything about this? And told me what they had seen. And they're up in the woods on the mountain, and it was just shortly after dark, and they're getting ready to head back down to the vehicles and come back to town. And I think there was like 2 or 3 people there, and one of them went away from the campfire to take a quick whiz and relieve himself. And while he was over there, they were getting ready to put out their campfire and go, and he started hearing this kind of like weird little music. And so he went a little bit further into the woods, and he didn't see anything, but he saw this glow. So he started going over toward this glow, and when he got there was nothing there, and there was no music anymore or anything, but there was little bitty campfires, like maybe 6 or 8 inches across, and there was a whole bunch of them, all sort of in this little area near each other.
Where was this again?
Right here, about 3 miles away on Mount Sentinel.
Oh, yeah, they're in that mountain.
Yeah, I know they're supposed to be in this area. I'm just wondering if that's something that's been reported tied in with other little people sightings. I know that there's the music thing has come up a bunch, but hadn't heard much in the way of this, like what's the deal with all these little campfires? Are they having some kind of little celebration that got interrupted or something like that?
Well, the First Nations believe that, and Native Americans believe that the little people are ancient people and that they were here before us. And in some oral traditions, the little people taught some of the natives how to make fire here. So they knew about fire long before First Nations or Native Americans. I figured it was in the winter. So they needed to learn how to make fires and whatnot. But that's going back ancient times, going back to when the first people came here from very far away.
I had never heard that before. That's a really weird legend that, hey, we learned how to make fire from the little people. Whoa.
Some legends even say that we came from the little people. Like all life came from the little people somehow. Well, human life. But most of them do say that they were here when we got here.
Yeah, that's a common thread that I've come across over and over again, that there's this vast antiquity attached to the little people. And pretty much anywhere you go on Earth, it's like, well, who was here when your people got here? Well, those hairy guys in the woods and those little bitty people, that was pretty much it. It's like you just keep running into that over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, and something else that I've come across is giants were also here when we got here.
Mm-hmm.
And we learned very quickly to stay away from them.
Yep.
Like we were more afraid of the little people than the big people, because you saw the big people coming. The little people, you just never knew.
Yeah, they were going to sneak right up on you.
Yep. Now, there is a story, because you were mentioning the mountain, was Henry Hudson on the Catskills Mountains. He had heard legends of the little people when he came over here during his fur trading days. So one night he was sailing down in his ship, and he saw fires up on the mountain, up in the Catskill Mountain. So they went over across in their little boats, and they went up in the mountain and saw these little dwarf-like people with big noses, big eyes, just playing music, dancing around, celebrating, and drinking beer.
Mm-hmm.
These little guys made their own beer. So he was amazed, and they were all sitting around talking, drinking, and having fun with these little people. And all of a sudden, these people started changing into these little people from drinking this beer.
Uh-oh.
And, of course, my brain, I'm thinking, what did they put in that beer? Like some kind of a hallucinogen?
Yeah.
Because when he got all of his people together and said, let's go, everybody was fine. Went back to the ship and didn't bother again. And he wrote that down in his journal.
Wow, that's strange. Yeah, and then you hear the other stories. What was it? The same guy that wrote Sleepy Hollow write a story about that, or some guy
Washington
thunder
Irving.
and stuff. Yeah, rustic guy walking around with his flintlock rifle out hunting or something, and he heard this like thunder and went and investigated, and it turned out to be some little people that were pine pins, and that was the sound of the thunder he was hearing, and they sort of invited him to hang out and drink with him and stuff, and took a nap, and when he woke up, it was like 70 years later, and all of his relatives were dead.
Oh, Rip Van Winkle.
Rip Van Winkle, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, same area, Catskills.
Yeah. Yeah, what I associate with Rip Van Winkle is what my mother would say to my dad when he's snoring.
The distant thunder.
Yeah, and the Cherokee Little People, the Yanwee Junsti, they have a story about a boy who didn't want to grow up, and they called him Forever Boy. And when other young men would talk about, well, I'm going to do this when I grow up or do that when I become a man, he didn't want to have anything to do with it. He'd go off and play. And one day his father, he was just all sick of this, and he said, look, we're going to take you out tomorrow, and you're going to learn to become a man. You're going to become an active member of the community. And the boy was so distraught, he went into the woods, and he cried and cried. And his animal friends came around him, and somehow they communicated to him to come back the next day. And so he did. He went back the next day, early next morning. And there was his animal friends, but there was also a bunch of little people. And they told him that you don't have to grow up. You could stay a little boy or whatever his age was. I imagine it's 12, 13, forever, and you can become one of us. So this young lad thought about it for a while, and he decided to become one of the little people. And it kind of reminds me of a Peter Pan story.
Right.
Now, the young lad was never seen again.
You know, that's really common in the traditions in Northern Europe, especially in the British Isles and stuff, too, where there's fairy mounds and stuff. And if you get kidnapped by the fairies, they can take you into the mound, and, you know, you may be in there for years or something, and when they release you, it's like no time passed, if they ever release you.
Yes, there are a couple of stories from Alaska with the urchin rat taking people, and it seems like it's only been maybe an hour or so, where in fact it's been a couple of years.
Yeah.
And
that's really creepy.
One of the urchin rat, because there's 4 different kinds, just urchin rat is what they call all of them. Now, they often take people, and they live in the mountain up there, and they are seen a lot. And last year, I got a report about a man who was, I've had 2 reports. So the one I got last year was he was in a canoe, and he was just canoeing along. He was coming back or going to fishing, and he saw one of these little people dressed in fur, traditional Eskimo garb, and he was spearfishing. And then the next one I got was he was on his way to a friend's house, and he had just walked by the lake and saw a little person, again, dressed in traditional Eskimo garb, spearfishing again. Not the same person, of course, but I find that absolutely fascinating.
Wow.
Now, these particular little people, I believe, are the Hurricanes. They're very intelligent. These little guys will help people. They're not like one of the other ones that actually steal people. Like, people go missing up there all the time. And that's what they refer to it as, go missing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the percentage of the population up there that goes missing is just horrendously high and really improbable.
Yes. I mean, even discounting things that might naturally happen.
Yeah,
there is
freezing, falling in a river, breaking your leg, getting eaten by a grizzly, yada, yada, yada. Even if you take all that into account, a lot of these people that go missing are not dumb greenhorns from the lower 48. They've lived there all their lives. They know what all the hazards are. And it's even weirder when they go missing for no good reason.
Yes. And like I said, they just commonly refer to it as go missing.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's quite staggering the amount of people that do go missing up there. But there are a lot of strange things that go on up there. But it is very wild still.
Well, and you consider that the population of that whole state is the largest state that we have. It's about the size of everything from the Rocky Mountains west. And you have a total population of only about 600,000 people. And yet out of that tiny population, you somehow have several thousand go missing every year. What?
Yes, exactly. I got a report shortly after I did the last show of a woman coming back early in the morning from work, and she just happened to see a little person getting water and dressed in sealskin. Just getting water, like it was nothing. She was driving past in her car and looked out the window and saw the little person.
Going about their business.
Just going about their business. I think it's amazing because they just accept these little people for who they are. Mm-hmm. Where, with Canada or U.S., most people are, like I said, they think you're crazy until they see one.
Then they think they're crazy.
Yep.
Then when that wears off.
Every state in the U.S. has at least one sighting.
Mm-hmm. And some states have a lot of sightings in them.
Oh, yeah, California has a lot of sightings. Washington State has a lot of sightings. Of course, your area
Pennsylvania's got a ton of sightings, too, of the albatross twitches and stuff over there.
Oh, yeah, Pennsylvania has got as much as California. Washington and Detroit, Michigan, of course, they have the legend of the Red Dwarf there. Mm-hmm. And people seen it throughout one day. the late 1800s, I believe. But it was only on Wednesday, but a bunch of people saw it. And, of course, I marked that down as still a sighting.
Yeah.
Still a sighting. Texas has some, and, of course, as I mentioned, Alaska has some. Florida has one. And they're the hairy little guys, the Mimigoeski. Well, one of the hairy little ones, because there's at least 4 different tribes of the hairy little ones. And those hairy little ones, they are mischievous. They steal. They'll throw rocks at you. They'll even throw apples that they've stolen from you at you.
I know that those little guys are part of the legendary of the Ojibwe, too, in northern Minnesota. And they even get specific about it and say that they live in high rocky crags where those are available. That's where they tend to hang out. And I just kind of wonder if that's, their word for basically the albatwish that they have over in Pennsylvania, because the description sounds very close.
Oh, well, I know with a lot of these tribes, it's the same thing with a different name.
Right.
Like with the Crow would call them Nirumbee, and the Sioux would call them something else.
Yeah, I think the Shoshone called them Nimirigar. There's like all the tribes around here had names for them, and they're all talking about the same thing.
Yes, and it's the same thing. And that took me a while to figure that out in the beginning. Okay, so I had to, what is this little
that would be a lot to sort through. I could see that.
Oh, yeah, what is the little person? What does it look like? What's the area it lived in? And which are the natives that were in that general area? And then figure it out from there. So we've kind of shrunk a little bit on how many little people there are, but there are still a lot of little people. We have something like 6 here, 3 in Mexico. We have 2 in Australia, 4 in Africa, 1 in the Philippines, 1 in Greece. That is not a pan or a fawn. It's an actual little person, like a gnome. 2 in Germany. 5 in Asia, more than 50 in Europe, and, of course, the Minihoni in Hawaii.
They're everywhere. They're everywhere.
They are
of course,
everywhere.
the Hobbit.
And the Hobbit in Indonesia. Yes, the Ibu-Gogo.
Homo floresiensis, the Hobbit.
Yeah, the Hobbit. And actually, one of the researchers actually wanted to call the little person they found Ibu-Gogo, but the Hobbit was the Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit.
Yeah, it was just popular and it just come out, so of course they glommed onto that.
Yeah, and they did have big feet, so it fit.
It would have been kind of cool if they had been named Homo Igo-Gogo taxonomically. That would have been appropriate.
Instead of Homo floresiensis, yes.
Yeah.
One of the researchers actually talked to the village people, and he got a lot of information about the Ibu-Gogo. Now, what we see pictured as the Hobbit is a little person with dark hair. But as the villagers explain it, they were hairy. They had hair covering their face, and they weren't particularly looking after themselves. And
and again, if you're just working from a skeleton, you can screw it up really bad with your reconstruction. Danny Vendramini pointed that out when everybody is doing, for decades and decades and decades, have been doing reconstructions of Neanderthals. Here's the bones, let's build up the facial structure, and they're using the same points of reference like they would use to reconstruct a forensic picture of someone who is dead and they just found a skull. They build up so much here and so much there, and they know exactly what the depths typically are depending on what, how old you are, what gender, da-da-da-da-da. And they can make a pretty damn close representation of what your face looked like. So as this science got better and everything, they were just doing the same thing with the Neanderthal. They were building it up like if it was looking something like a human, here's what it would look like. And Danny took a Neanderthal skull and said, let's assume that they look like an ape and build it up based on that. What would it look like? Oh, and the end result happens to look exactly like a Bigfoot. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Just because they have the bones doesn't mean that they necessarily know what the living critter looked like. And another good example of that is Gigantopithecus, where they've got a couple of jawbones and a few molars, and they said, okay, it's a giant orangutan-looking ape, and it looked like this, and it does this, and this, and this, and this, which is complete and total hogwash. It's nothing but theory and postulation. There's absolutely nothing to back it up. And in fact, a different group of scientists looked at the exact same bones and named it Meganthropus, which means giant man, not Gigantopithecus, which means giant ape. So they looked at the same bones and said, it's a giant human, it's not even an ape. So, it's Gigantopithecus. But now getting back to the little people.
Yes, I was going to say, when I was young and was first beginning to study Bigfoot, and it is my theory, I know a few other people share this theory, but like I said, it is my theory that Bigfoot is the missing link between man and ape. But again, it is just my theory.
Mm-hmm.
But
now, from my standpoint, I don't think that there is any link between man and ape. I think that we were a special edition creation, and that Bigfoot more than likely is one of the earlier hominids that was running around the planet before we came here, however we got here, and that they're just still extant. And so I really don't think we could be as more closely related to them than any of the other great apes, because really, in as much as they like to make a big deal out of that, we're not that closely related to the other great apes.
Yeah, my other favorite saying is, let's prove its existence first, and then everything else comes secondary.
Exactly. Yeah, first, got to get the scientists on board to actually look at the evidence so that they can admit that it's real, and then they can get off their dead butts and actually start doing the job they should have been doing for the last 50 years.
Exactly. I agree with that statement totally. We need more scientists on board.
Mm-hmm. And we've got a few gems. I mean, God, we had Krantz and Bindernagel, which were both awesome, and, contributed tons to the whole effort in the community. And you've currently got guys like Jeff Meldrum and Dr. Igor Burtsev over there in Russia that are equally as amazing and are doing a great job. But, man, we need some more real scientists to actually, pull their heads out, take a look at the data, realize there's something there, and start investigating it.
In the beginning, it started where everybody was just an amateur, say, paleontologist who went out and dug bones. They weren't specialized or had any special schooling in that particular field. They just went out and they did their thing. And that's how this started. And I think some scientists forget that. Go out in the field, start looking. Don't be behind a desk. Go out and look, and you'll see what we all see.
Well, and that's the whole thing. It's like you guys are just having it handed to you on a silver platter. We've been out there doing the legwork for decades, gathering all this data. All you have to do is actually look at it and go, oh, now all we have to do is go out in the field and vet this and see if it holds up. Talk about a cakewalk. Yeah, sorry, I keep getting sidetracked on that whole thing. That was the last episode that I did, and I'm still kind of, there's going to be more follow-ups on this whole blockbuster DNA thing that we just did. So I don't know if you just heard the most recent episode I did, but we've got another genetic marker that we can use to prove the existence of Bigfoot, and we don't need a blood sample or anything to do it, so it just got a whole lot easier.
I'll have to watch it, because I like to keep track.
Yep, this is cutting edge. It was just released at the Nebraska Bigfoot Conference last weekend. I got the scoop again. The scoops always come here at World Bigfoot Radio. And, I got the scoop on that one. So this will be something that the scientific community will be digesting for a while. I sent a copy of it over to Dr. Igor Burtsev to take a look at. I'm sure he'll be very interested in it because it has a lot to do with the DNA they extracted from the skull of Zana's son, Kvit, and the subsequent testing of it done by Dr. Sykes over at Oxford and that whole thing. So more coming on that. But getting back to the little people again.
Okay, so we were headed towards Oregon, I believe.
Yep.
Okay, in the 1920s or the 1930s, when logging is always a big deal, but it was more of a big deal, cash crop, if you were, back during the 1920s and the 1930s. There was a little boy whose parents worked for a logging company, cleaning up the extras from around the trees. I believe it's called a slash pile. And he was bored one day, and he was out playing by this creek. And two little people crossed the water, the creek, and they were only foot and a half tall. And they wore animal skins, and they walked to the other side, looked around, walked back. He went and he told his parents what happened, and they found the footprints. Parents didn't want to follow the footprints, but the little boy believed that the little people weren't happy about the logging being done in the area and the destruction of the forest, which goes along with something that I just heard recently from Minnesota, I believe, that her uncle drives trucks for a logging company. And a bunch of these little people who were described as goblin-looking were jumping on the back of his truck as he was driving out, trying to pull the logs off the truck.
Oh, shit.
And he won't go back there. He won't pull logs out of there. He won't go near the place. It scared him so bad.
Well, they're probably pretty ticked off about all the logging that happened there originally and pretty much dead set on stopping any more from happening at this point. I can see that. That whole northern part of that state used to be covered with giant white and red pine forest, and all got logged off.
Well, most legends say that they live in rocks or under the ground, so they could be disturbing their home.
Yeah.
Yanking up trees, and you got the roof of your house caving in. What are you going to do? You're going to fight back.
That would tend to make you want to do something if somebody was about to wreck your house.
Well, it's a particular funny story that takes place back around 1927. There was three brothers, and they were hunting in the mountains in Oregon. They split up to look for the deer, and one brother come across some deer tracks, and he started following them, and then all of a sudden, here are some little people prints walking right beside the deer. He didn't think anything of it, and he just kept following the deer, following these little footprints, and all of a sudden he saw this little person standing on the log, child size, about 2 feet, dressed in spotted deer fur, so I figured it was a doe or a fawn. Now he kind of just looked at him, and the little man carried a bow and some arrows, and he was very old. His face was wrinkled. And this man wanted to take the little person home with him just to see what happened. He just wanted to take him home. Hey, look what I found. But he decided, well, I'd better not, just in case. And when he told his other two brothers what he had seen, they didn't really argue with him because they had seen little footprints too. I thought the story was amusing. Let's just take this little person home.
Oh, my God. Yeah,
what will happen.
Man. It's a good thing he didn't try it.
What would happen?
I don't think he would have been successful. It was probably a good thing he didn't try.
No. I just thought it was amusing.
Yeah, no kidding. That's really weird one there.
It was a pet.
So speaking of little guys with native dress on, and the off chance we actually get permission to use this picture, you want to do a little short breakdown on this weird picture that you got?
Yeah. Last week, a friend of mine is a Bigfoot researcher, and he just happened to turn around. He had a feeling, and he snapped a picture. And what we see in the picture, and I saw it right off, is a little person, and it's what I believe is a Cherokee little person, the Yunwi-Junsti, and probably one of the dogwood people, because they have three different types of little people who do their own thing. Now, these are the nicer one of the three, and they're the ones that watch out for people when they're in the woods and hunting, and if you happen to get lost, they help you find your way back. So he just snapped this picture, and you can see clearly a face. You can see two eyes, a nose, shoulders. You can see his legs. And he has war paint on, and he has fur. So he's in full camo. And it is, as I said, he let my friend see him, because this is what they say. They only let you see them if they want you to see them. And nobody even needed to show me where he was in this picture. I saw him right off, and I was excited. I was excited, well, as much as to see the handprint.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I saw that picture, it was earlier in the morning. I was just waking up. I'm not a morning person, but, man, I got snapped awake. I was like, wow, I can see him. Because sometimes you get pictures where you're not really sure what it is, or oh, look at there, and I never see anything. But this is like right there in your face. It's amazing.
It's awesome to get shots like that. They come along so rare. And it's the same thing with Bigfoot. You get tons of blob squatches, and occasionally you get one where it's like, whoa, that looks like the real deal. Good job, dude. You know?
Yeah, he suspects that this little guy, when he's in that area doing his research, that this one particular little guy follows him. I told him, you're very lucky. He's watching out for you.
Yeah.
He likes you. He's watching out for you.
And this is where, down Tennessee? Is that what you said?
It was near the Cherokee Reservation. Now, besides the Duendes in Mexico, which is also a word that they use in Argentina to describe these little dwarf-like characters that are quite malevolent, like they'll stick sticks in the spikes of your bikes to knock you down, throw rocks at you. Now, the ancient Mayan people, called the little people that lived there, the Aluxes, they lived in the jungle, and the Aztecs called them Chuchek, and they lived in the jungle also. And in Japan, I've noted two of them. One is called the Kappa, and they look like children, but they have very shiny skin. They are 2 to 3 feet tall. They are good healers and can be good or bad depending on their mood. They live near water, and they do abduct people from time to time. And the people do remember being abducted. And also in Japan, they have the Koro Pokyura, and they live in the wild, and they will attack people who are in their territories with spears and rocks. And then we have the little people of Africa, and I've noted two of these also. In the western areas, they are the and I hope I pronounce this right, the Yambos, meaning good people, 2 feet tall. Their skin is pale like white, almost albino white. They have silver hair. They live in the hills, and they eat fish and corn, and sometimes invite the local people to dine with them.
Wow.
And then we have the Tokoloshi, which live in the southern part of Africa. Now, they are hairy little dwarfs, and they are not monkeys. They're quite nasty. They like to torment villagers. They cause general havoc. And they also like to bite people when they're asleep.
You know, isn't it interesting that you got the little furry people over in Africa and here in North America, and, you know, like they keep popping up. The description is the same, and the description of their behavior is the same.
Exactly. That's why I made a note of it. And it's funny because it's in Africa, and Africa is such a hot place. You wouldn't think of the little furry people being there. But there they are. And it is, as you say, they look the same, and their temperaments are the same, and they cause general havoc.
Yeah, just like the furry little people, you know, the mini squatches up in Alaska, or the albatritches in Pennsylvania, or wherever you're running into reports of these little guys. The description of them is the same. Their behavior is the same.
They're the furry little guys, no matter where they are the same. And the last one I have a note of here is in Colombia, and they are called Pippintu. I find this particularly cute because I have a cat named after a Hobbit named Pip. Now they're called Pippintus because they always travel in pairs. They live in the mountains there. They look like dwarves with the long beard, except they have bald heads. They are considered to be friendly, and they live off the land. Now, the locals see these people quite a bit, and they trade with them. And they're quite a common sight just to come across them. Hold on 1 second, I have a cat fight.
Cat fight, cat fight. Cat fight music go away.
Sorry about that, cat fight.
Oh, cat fight's over. Okay, back to the show.
Yep. Yeah, Tika, she's the littlest one here. She tries to beat up the 20-pound cat.
Pretty much guess where that goes.
Yep. Well, her nickname around here is Puss in Boots' sister, and she's got them eyes, right? So she'll look at you with them eyes like Puss in Boots does in the cartoon. I'm like, not working. Don't look at her. It'll work. I just can't look at her.
Wow. So lots of little people from all over the world, and you did a good job of covering most of it. We got to get in more next time we have you on into the different types and varieties that you have over in Western and Eastern Europe and on into Asia, because we haven't really talked about them very much. And again, same sort of varieties, just with different names.
Same
all over the place. So if folks want to find you, I know that on Facebook you can be found at Strange Realms. Facebook group, really cool. You just started it going recently. I noticed that you always have new content every day. There's always something interesting to look at there, and so definitely worth being a member and keeping your eye on that group. If anybody has like a sighting of a little person or something, should they contact you there, or is there some other way to do it?
Yes, you can contact me at my Facebook page at Strange Realms, of course, and I have my own web page now. It's strangerealms.net. But yes, you can contact me through the web page or at
or Facebook
webmail at my webmail at strangerealms.net. It's just please contact me directly, and people have contacted me through my Facebook page quite a bit to report a sighting or simply ask me, what kind do you think it is?
Again, I'm glad that there's somebody out there that's actually doing this. We really need somebody to do this survey and try and make some sense out of what we're actually looking at here. Even putting aside if they're real or not, from a legend standpoint, what are the commonalities? What are the names? Let's do a survey of all these different legends from around the world and see what we've got in common on this kind of stuff and make some sense out of it. So it's spectacular that there's somebody out there that's actually doing that. And I really appreciate it. I'm totally in favor of you continuing, and not just because you're our correspondent on the little people and we'll be doing updates on it, but just for the sake of the pure research and having somebody actually paying attention to this and getting some information on it. Rah, go, girl, go. Super happy you're doing it.
Oh, I'm enjoying it because I find it absolutely fascinating, even from a folklore point of view. People love it.
Yeah. And it's really eye-opening, too. Like we were saying earlier, you start comparing these reports from all over the world. Here's the little furry people that all seem to act and look the same all over the world. How does that just randomly happen if it's legend?
Exactly, because as we know, for thousands and thousands of years, these people had no contact with each other.
Right. And yet somehow they're coming up with all the same weird legends. Yeah.
Yes, because a lot of these stories go back to the first peoples with the oral histories. We try to keep them the same throughout the years to teach for future generations about whatever it is we're trying to say, like the Inuit tell stories of the little people, so you will know how to deal with them when you come upon them. Not if you come upon them, but when you do.
When you come upon them, yeah. Because they fully expect at some point you'll probably run into one, and you better know how to deal with it, or you might not be seen again.
Yes. In case you go missing.
Oh, God. And there's the go missing thing again. Oh, good Lord. Well, on that fairly terrifying note, we got to bring the show to a close because we are actually running out of time, unfortunately. But we will be having Robyn back again. Thanks so much for coming on the show. I really, really appreciate it. Looking forward to having you back again.
Oh, thanks for having me again. It's always fun. I love sharing all my little people knowledge.
Right on. And we appreciate having you. It's very much appreciated. Like I said, not enough people doing this research. So if more people are out there interested in this, hey, help her out. Do research on your little area. Share your findings with her. Robyn's going to be doing the central proto-pygmy information bank here. So, interact with Robyn, talk to her, let her know what you're up to if you're looking into that stuff in your local area. Share information that's going to help everybody else out. And meanwhile, don't forget to go check out everything possible under the sun at Strange Realms, wherever it is, on the internet, on Facebook, Go check them out. Super cool. And meanwhile, got to get going here, folks. So everybody, have a great day. And whatever you do, hey, don't hug the Puckwudgies either. See you later. Bye.
Everyone, safety first, last, and always. Pay it forward. Don't be mean to people if you don't have to be. Don't flip off the mountain giant. Don't poke Dogman with a stick. Don't punt the Puckwudgie. And for God's sake, whatever you do, do not hug the Wookiee.